And as you can see, it's not only Hong Kong that sucks, or basically it's everywhere. Graduates with master's degrees offered monthly salaries of 1,600 RMB at job fair in northern China. So this article is from the South China Morning Post, but just for people that aren't so sure how much 1,600 RMB is, renminbi, yuan, if you go to xe.com, it's about $250 a month. Now, I don't have to tell you, that's pretty low, unbelievably low. So let's take a look at the article. A recent graduate with a master's degree from an overseas university has been offered a monthly salary of just 1,600 yuan at a job fair in northern China, mainland media reports. Several graduates with master's degrees interviewed by China Youth Daily at the event in Tianjin said they had trouble finding reasonably paid jobs. Now, it's very unfortunate. Zhang Yao, 25, from Tianjin, also has not found a job after graduating with a master's in business administration from a leading university in South Korea. Okay. So while applying for the position of a Korean language teacher at the fair, Zhang was offered a basic salary of 1,600 yuan a month. Now you have to think about this. This person, okay, Zhang Yao, from Tianjin. So that means that this person speaks Mandarin. I mean, if you grew up in Tianjin, you're going to speak Mandarin. And he might also speak another Chinese dialect. A lot of you may not be aware, but in China, there's lots of dialects. So many times they will speak a dialect at home or in their community, but then the national language is Mandarin. So Mandarin is the medium of instruction for all the schools, and so people know Mandarin as well. But look at this. When applying for a position of a Korean language teacher, he was only offered 1,600 yuan a month. That means that this person also knows Korean to a level where he could actually teach it to other people. So this person knows at least 2 languages really well. And I mean, it is quite common for lots of really educated people to also speak English possibly, or some other languages. So it's amazing that somebody can know 2 or more languages, and he's getting about $250 a month. Since he graduated, Zhang found that most Korean companies were laying off more staff than they were recruiting. Many attendees expressed frustration with being caught in between the competition from holders of bachelor's degrees and doctorates. So I put out a video about a few weeks ago, and then I posted a video about 7 months ago about Hong Kong, and I was critiquing and laying out the land about how going to school was essentially useless. It wasn't only useless, it was actually detrimental. We have all these people graduating from universities, and it's not only in Hong Kong, it's in the US, the UK, Canada, wherever, and it's also in China too. You have all these people that are graduating with useless degrees, and what ends up happening is it makes the value of a degree worthless. And people, even with masters, are now becoming worthless. They've probably been worthless for many years now. So now doctorates are also going to be useless. Our professional qualifications are not as high as those with doctorates. What's after doctorates? Nothing. You're going to have to get like a, doctorate squared. I mean, these things don't exist. And I mean, are you going to spend, 8 years in school to get a doctorate just so you can fight tooth and nail for a 1,600 yuan job a month? Probably not. I mean, a lot of people would because they're crazy, but I think most people at that point are just going to go, you know what, fuck it, I'm not making enough money. There's no reason to waste 8 years of my life and spending all these untold thousands or millions of dollars to get a degree in Chinese literature. And look, they're only expecting 4,000 to 5,000 yuan a month. That's like $750 a month. Now, granted, in China, the standard of living is not as high, and the cost of living is also lower than in many places around the world. But if you go to Beijing or Shanghai, if you look at property prices, they're even more expensive than many places in the U.S. So even at 4,000 to 5,000 yuan a month, it would be impossible for these people with masters that can speak 2, 3, 4 languages to get a decent job and be able to live by themselves. According to the government, 7.65 million university students will graduate this year, an increase of about 160,000 from last year. Think about this. Every year, they're going to add more than 7.5 million more people into the job market that have all these useless degrees. Now remember, these degrees are not engineers. They're not doctors. These are not the degrees that society needs. Not everyone can be a doctor. So by forcing everyone into school, the level of education hasn't actually increased. What has happened is that the universities, to meet the expectations and the standards of the lower students, which is the mass majority of them, is that they have to lower the content. So you still have about the same amount of people that are graduating from university today compared to 20 or 30 years ago. They're graduating as doctors and as engineers and as, physicists and pharmacists and all these very difficult jobs that really do need a lot of training and instruction from universities for people to succeed. No problem with that. Instead, what's happening is that those people are still getting educated, but then you have this mass deluge of everybody else, the other 98% of whatever people. I don't know what the number is. But basically, they're just cramming into university. They can't get into those programs because they're not smart enough. And so the university just makes the standard lower. And so they just go, okay, why don't you take, Chinese philosophy? Why don't you take English literature? Why don't you take drama? And then they spend 4 years or how many years in school. And then they waste all their time learning all this useless bullshit they'll never use. And then guess what? This is the result. Great. You bought into the propaganda machine where everybody needs to go to school to learn something entirely useless, and this is what you get. So it's not only happening in Hong Kong, it's not only happening in the US, it's not only happening in Australia. This is a worldwide phenomenon. And hopefully soon, one day, because the system's going to break soon, one day people are going to realize that just because you have a piece of paper doesn't mean you're smart, and it doesn't mean you're good at the job. And in fact, it's going to mean the opposite.